My name is Joseph Mills, and I don't quite know how I'm going to use this podcast, so I will not begin it with a beginning, but I'm just going to jump straight in and speak. This is part of the Transcendent Media Network, the proud home of the Single H Show, Parts of Unknown, and Comics in Christ. And today, as we just take a few moments to speak, today is July 4th, 2025. And there is just so much to process today. Today, very specifically. Yesterday, July 3rd, 2025, the big, beautiful bill got pushed through. And along with it, major cuts in Medicare, children's school lunches, support programs like Planned Parenthood. Just a whole lot of harm went through yesterday. And I wake up today on the 4th of July pondering how that our leaders have let down our vulnerable citizens. And in many ways have let us all down. I look at the reality of what the cuts in Medicaid will do, and there's a lot of conversations that there are smaller rural hospitals that will have the possibility, I need to be vague and not absolute, have the possibility of shutting down because of the funding that they receive through Medicare and so forth. Just a lot of harm has happened yesterday. Today, as I sit at this time in July 4th, 2025, I also think about the imagery that we've seen through immigration issues. And we are a country that has been built on the backs of immigrants, and now we have made immigrants the villains. And we have all of this imagery all across the world of ICE agents arresting just basically persons of color that without due process, no conversation, no proof of proving citizenship. There has been documented cases allegedly of people that were fully citizens being detained and sent away. And I look at this imagery and I look at what it means to exist in America on July 4th, 2025. I think about our LGBTQIA plus siblings, and I think about the journey of fear that they've been through as we begin to look at things being revoked and pulled away. We look at the situation where we have dear siblings that have been celebrating marriage for numerous years are now worried that their marriages will no longer be recognized. We have transgender individuals who have gone through lifelong processes and have gone through lifelong transitional journeys, and we find them at this moment having legislation and written that eliminates the identities that they worked so hard to flourish and grow into. We look at ideas and conflicts as we begin to fight about what our educational programs are going to look like in the United States, as we look at funding revoked for the departments of education and what education will do. We look at agenda-driven curriculums that are being put into place and programs that are being approved by the Supreme Court and local school boards trying to push agendas through that make it so that people can opt out of certain historical topics because it is against their religious principles. There is just so much going on that is just hurtful. It's hard to sit on this day July 4th, 2025, and be patriotic. I am very blessed to be an American citizen and for at this time having the freedom of speech and expression. And for right now, I hold great value in that reality of my being. I had something happen yesterday, and it really tangled in with what I'm dealing with emotionally as an American citizen. At the flagpole at our worship center, we have two flags on it. We have the American flag on top, as to flag code. The American flag's on top. Directly under it is an all-inclusive flag. And we've had these flags out for a while, and the ones we had out were pretty tattered. And I did not feel comfortable moving into July 4th with these tattered flags on the flagpole. So yesterday I removed both flags. I put up a brand new cloth American flag. I put up a not tattered all-inclusive flag because I was not able to find a new one at the store, but at least I did have a non-tattered inclusive flag to wave. And then all day yesterday I had a problem. My American flag wouldn't unfurl. Every time I raised it, it was tangling itself up into the pole. And as it kept tattering itself up into the pole, it became frustrating. I lowered it. I put it back on. I put it on in a different direction. I raised it back up, and it would just not unfurl. We have a scout troop that meets at our worship center, and that evening I had the scout troop come out and the scoutmasters come out and say, "Hey, why won't this flag unfurl?" And they looked at it. They readjusted things to make the flag more taut so that the wind would catch it and it would fly out. And that no matter what they did, the flag wouldn't unfurl. And one thing that one of the scoutmasters said, and before I say this, don't read into it, that it's a pretty inclusive scouting troop that's there, and they've always had very complimentary things to say, that they're able to meet at a worship center that's willing to fly the inclusive flag on the flagpole. But one of the gentlemen said, what will help the American flag fly is if you take down the all-inclusive flag. Because of the different fabrics, because of the way that they were hung, one was restricting the other from flying. And that was his words. One was restricting the other from flying properly. And man, that just rang in my ears. If I take down my all-inclusive flag, the American flag will fly better. If I take down the American flag, the all-inclusive flag will fly better. It kind of presented this imagery that they couldn't coexist. Now, that's not what he was saying. He was telling me the God's honest truth. These two pieces of cloth were restricting each other from doing what they were supposed to do. But it really did pull an imagery in for me on what I'm dealing with as an American citizen on July 4th, 2025. Is I really do exist in this complex that there's this whole grouping of marginalized citizens, and what we know as American politics is restricting them from living well. And if you look at American politics pushing back at the world with the passing of the big beautiful bill, with the ICE issues, with everything, the legislation, the executive orders restricting so many things, from the teaching of whole history to the acknowledgement of our transgender siblings' identities, The political structure itself is restricting the marginalized from being able to live freely and properly. Never in my life did I hear a better explanation of what I have been frustrated with as an American citizen than this explanation of why these two flags couldn't fly completely extended and visible for all to see. One was restricting the other. I'm thinking about Francis Scott Key today, and one phrase of the Star-Spangled Banner, and they showed through the night that our flag was still there. The rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. I started to think about those lyrics as I tied into this idea of one flag restricting the other, American politics restricting the marginalized fighting hard and pushing back on American politics to be acknowledged in their existence. And I started thinking about, as the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in the air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. If these flags cannot coexist, what flag are we looking for as the rocket's red glare? Are we looking for the flag of equality or an inclusion? Are we looking for the flag that's given me the opportunity to speak and say some of these radically controversial things against American culture on this podcast? Or are we the one that's trying to restrict the other from being able to fly vibrantly? Which flag are we looking for? I have been very frustrated. I'll be very honest with you. I was ready to just take the American flag down, but the American flag isn't owned by an skewed national Christian nationalist agenda. It's not skewed by conservative politics. It's not skewed by liberal politics. That flag is owned by every American citizen, and it stands for one thing: that we have freedoms in our lives. And even though that there is this massive push of oppression going on right now, that flag still stands for the freedom for me to say everything that I've said on this podcast today. So I want the flag to wave for what it actually stands for. And I worked very hard for that flag to wave to display what it actually stands for. Those two flags standing up together, one flag representing freedom for all and another one representing inclusion for all. And that's what America's supposed to be. I have been listening, and many of you know, those of us at Transcended Media has really fallen in love with this new musician named Jesse Wells, and his whole Bob Dylan social protest genre of 2025 protest music. And he's got this new song out called Domesticated Error, and it really is this really push back on everything that we deal with, and how things get run over when one flag isn't allowing the other flag to unfurl, and trying to iron all of those things out in such a way that we can truly live within the true model of what the American dream is. And God bless, the American dream isn't building a nationalistic society that the upper crust is in charge of everything. The American dream has always been about individuals that have found their place in comfort and freedom in a place that is free from crippling oppression. But I guess that we really need to be honest. The American flag has never really displayed that. That American flag has flown over years and years of cultural racism, just cultural restrictions, that the American flag has represented complete freedom for the white folks. We got to really look at it for what it's always been, and as that flag is waved for years upon years, it's talked about freedom and growth for all the white men, even the oppression of women and gender equality issues that we stumble with. This country, no matter how much it's shared, this country was not built on religious values. If anything, this culture was built as those wanted to step out of religious constriction from the Church of England so that they could set free and believe and celebrate and worship and cut up in the freedom of any way they wanted to, including the freedom of not having to worship country sanctioned religion. But over these hundreds of years, since 1776, right now we see everything digressing back to what that we broke away from. And those are the feelings that I have to wrestle with today on July 4th, 2025. Now, within all these conversations, we always try to add a bright light within the hope. What do we see when we see our rocket's red glare? The bombs bursting in the air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. If we are looking at the flags of freedom and liberty and the flags of full inclusion, what do we do to go out and live into those things? Do we go out and we join a No Kings rally? I am planning on doing that on July 17th. I want us to think about what are we trying, which flag are we trying to live towards? Because as we decide what banner we're holding, it helps us live in such a way that we display what's important to us. And right now, more than ever, we need to display what's important to us, because there's so many people being hurt by an askewed image of what our flags mean. Harmful imagery of what our flags mean. And now more than ever, we need to go out and do and serve and be in such a way that freedom reigns. The rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in the air, gave proof to the night that liberty and inclusion were still there. Thank you for listening to this. I have decided throughout the reading of this was the Single H Show presents Transparenting. My name is Joseph Mills. Everyone, have a great week.